Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. Today we want to do some slingshot power shooting. Haven't been doing a lot of slingshot stuff in a long time and it's actually super fun to get back into it. And I hope that I can take you on my journey to extreme slingshot shooting. Okay, first the OBS board. Which is really, it's like a chipboard, and these things are actually very hard to destroy, since they're not based on sawdust, but they're used on chips. So depending on where you hit it, it can be really hard. And you see, last time I shot this into the board here, and it sticks in, and actually it broke through. I'm gonna take you around, see how thick this board is, and as you see, it almost broke through. So it sticks in, but it almost broke through. Now, a lot of people said, well, that's probably gonna break skin. That's not just gonna break skin. A thing like this will enter into your head and come out at the other side, taking half of your brain with it. So, but in order to calibrate, I will now use a very pointy fighting axe to show you how much damage this is in relationship. So this is the cold steel axe, and as you see, it's well used. I've actually used it quite a bit, but it's still very lethal. And I will now try to hit the board as hard as I can with it. And I think there can be no doubt that this would very easily kill a zombie if you hit it on the head. So let's see what happens. I'm taking a fresh spot. Okay, do it again just to try to hit it a little bit harder this time. Okay. So this is actually the hit, and this is the other hit here. I tried it once before, and you see it's very reproducible. But if you look at the back side, it's actually, there's a tiny little crack. But look at the comparison to what the steel ball did. So it can be absolutely no doubt that this steel ball is definitely deadly. But I want to try again today and see, is this still the same slingshot made from really cheap wood, but laminated so that it's really tough. And I'm using tapered 4-layer band sets. And by the way, it looks different now because I inked it. Actually, this was inked 3 times, and then in between the inking it was sanded. So I sanded it down to 1200 grit in the end. And now of course it is really beautiful, I think. You can easily see how much, some fiber directions just were better for soaking up the ink and some were not penetrable by it, but it gives it a super cool look. Would you not agree? Okay, well, I think the cheap wood has reached its limit. Look at that. It broke clean off. And it was not a fork hit. It was just me drawing out so hard that it broke. All right. This slingshot is an extreme slingshot. And it's not extreme because it has the super powerful bands and so on, because it doesn't. This is a speed slingshot. As you see, the bands, actually, there are 2 bands, so double bands. So it's not the strongest, but it is quite strong. And you see they're massively tapered from 3.5 centimeters here at the fork to only 1.75 centimeters here at the pouch, which makes it very fast, but it will also mean that they will tear very quickly here. And this actually increases the speed very much because you overstretch these parts. This part will stretch out far more than this part, and this will give it extra speed. While you don't have the strength to do the same stretch to the entire untapered band set with the same dimensions. So it is very important to taper it, but it's also because this is all payload. The more close to the pouch the rubber is in itself, the more weight it has to carry by itself. So the thinner it is here, the more energy can be transferred to the steel ball. And as you see, this slingshot here that I made yesterday from a huge tree fork, has an embedded integral hand protection. So this actually protects my fingers And why is it needed? Because extreme slingshots like this, you shoot really small steel balls, not big steel balls, small steel balls, so that they fly really, really fast. And at the end of the acceleration, the bands have so much energy left that they lash out very far, and actually hit you on the palm. And it's very, very, very painful, I can tell you by experience. So if you use heavy steel balls, it's not a problem, because then all the energy is spent, but not if you're shooting very light steel balls. And therefore, for a record slingshot like this one here, it is absolutely essential that you do take these. And we're using 12mm steel balls. Of course, really not big. I mean, those are rather small steel balls for this amount of rubber. And we're shooting against this water-filled dog food can and see how well they penetrate. So let's see. So as you see, it was just a glancing blow, but see, it ripped open the entire side of the dog food can. Wow. I know. You guys want to know how fast it is. Well, here's the rudder crony. Let's test it. "88 meters per second. So my best result was actually 88 meters per second, which is, how much? Almost 189 feet per second. For a slingshot, it's not bad. And you saw how far I have to draw out. And without the hand protection here, that would have been really, really painful, believe me. Of course, it is a pity that my homemade slingshot broke. And I've actually glued it back together and strengthened it with some steel inlays. So it should be good for shooting again, but I will probably not band it up with the 4 bands, because it seems like a little much for the poor little wooden thing. But of course, this slingshot here is absolutely strong enough for them. So I changed the bands over to this here, since we do want to know what happens when a 1-inch steel ball hits that dog food can filled with water full on. Whoa! Very interesting to see that this blunt, fat steel ball penetrated both sides of it with ease and then knocked hard on the backstop made from OBS wood. So will this slingshot be strong enough for those powerful bands? Yes, absolutely. Why is that? Well, simply because this is a natural fork, and it's also high quality hardwood. It's actually beech. So yes, there is this crack in the middle, but this crack is no danger for the integrity of the frame, because it was just a natural fork, and therefore the wood around it is so strong that it's not going to crack. And even if it would crack lengthwise, right through the middle, and therefore there would be no chance. See, this is still a natural fork. You can see the tree marks here, and the rings here and here. So this is the advantage of a natural tree fork. Nature provided a very, very, very solid environment for a slingshot to be carved out. Now, how did I make it? Well, it was actually quite messy. I took this huge, huge fork, and then I took the chainsaw. It's actually a carving chainsaw, and cut this hole through. And then I pretty much used the power file to get rid of all this, and it created an enormous amount of dust. And then, of course, a lot of sand belts for the power file were needed, and a ton of sandpaper for smoothing it out afterwards as well. So I couldn't really use my power saw much, since the piece is just too big, so it wouldn't fit under the blade. Anyway, spent a whole day making this, and I'm very, very pleased with it. So what is this a slingshot that you would want? Well, I hope so. Let me know in the comments, because otherwise that's it for today. Thanks, and wow! Bye-bye. Wasn't painful for my hand.